So, welcome to Beauty of Colors podcast. George, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
You're very welcome. So, tell the listeners about you and what drove you into writing your book.
I think most of us have a hard time talking about ourselves, but what really drove me to write my book, I actually was called to write it during the pandemic. It was always like a lifelong dream for me to write my book. And it just happened right at the middle of the pandemic. I just got pulled and told now's the time. And I was like, what do you mean it's now's the time? We're right in the middle of a pandemic here. And people need to get motivated. People need to be inspired. And right when we were about to finish the book, I hear this most powerful, sweetest whisper that I've ever heard in my life. And it said, answer the call. And I was like, answer the call. And then I heard it again, this most powerful, sweetest voice I've ever heard. And that's when I knew that the title of my book had to be called Answer the Call. And every time I talk about it, it just gives me goosebumps and chills on my spine because it's such a powerful message. Answer the call means following your gifts, your talents, and your life's purpose. And we're all being called to follow our life's purpose. So that was the motivation, inspiration behind it.
So, tell us a little bit about you, George.
Well, to summarize it, I am the son and grandson of Mexican immigrant. My family has been here in the United States since back in World War II. There was a work agreement between the United States and Mexico. They needed labor force. And this is when my grandfather actually migrated to the United States. And that's the foundation of everything that I've tried to build for myself and my family. The legacy is to make my family proud, my grandfather and my parents proud. So that is the most solid parts that I like to talk about when I talk to people, when I have to express myself as far as my background is, my background.
Well, thanks for sharing. So, what are some of the practical insights into the journey of reinvention?
Reinvention can be a scary thing. It's only easy when our life has completely been destroyed or the circumstances that surrounded that. The only option that we have at that point is to dust ourselves up and move forward. And that itself is reinvention. So what we do is we use the previous experiences from all the life lessons and the struggles, because there's always lessons and struggles. And going forward, that is what we end up tapping into and allows us to reinvent ourselves in such a way where we're carving a new us. The new version, the last version of us is no longer working on this present and future life that we're trying to build. And that's what really reinvention is about, is gathering those lessons, those pains, and anything along those ways, and use that and craft a new us. And that is the power of reinvention.
That is powerful. So, George, how did you draw inspiration from your family legacy? You just told us about your grandfather and how you guys got settled into the US and all of that. How did you draw inspiration from that?
I think as a minority in this country, we are supposed to be smarter, work harder than a group of individuals. And I don't even want to get into that conversation, but that's just like the foundation of what I was able to see. Even as this young child, my family struggled. I didn't know we were poor until I got older and saw the baby pictures. When I started noticing the things in the backgrounds of the pictures, in the clothing and how dirty I was, and the clothing that I had in those pictures, that I realized, oh my God, we were poor. Now, that doesn't mean that I had a bad childhood, because I believe I had a good one, a loving one, but it made me realize that if my family came from Mexico and struggled in that way, the least I could do for them is be better, because I have more opportunities. Doors have opened for me that they never had opened, and the opportunities that I have, they never had. And we have to use that and honor their struggle and use that as an excuse and as a foundation to build ourselves up in a legacy and an empire on their sacrifice that they did for us. So I think that's an important thing that a lot of us need to remember and not forget, in their honor, whether they're still living or if they passed on to the next life.
So, what is the importance of hard work, starting from scratch again to get to the point that where you want to be in life?
Well, I think starting from scratch is no longer starting from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
because now we're starting with wisdom, we're starting with experience,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that you can't buy that kind of foundation, if you will. And I think that that gives us an upper hand from somebody that's just starting, that hasn't struggled, that doesn't have that appreciation for that, where we come in and say, this is what my solid foundation looks like. The struggles, that adversity, I'm using this to my benefit. So I'm not starting from scratch now, I'm starting from experience now. And the will to not go back in that place where I just pull myself out of.
So you're saying, George, that people who migrate to this country see things different from people who have already been in the country, like their work ethic is a little bit different?
I believe so. I believe that the more generations that are here, you lose sight of the sacrifice that was given. Like myself included, I'm the firstborn generation here, me and my siblings and my first cousins. So we worked hard because we saw our parents and our grandparents. Now, the younger siblings and then our children sometimes, they have that disconnection from that because they don't remember that, unless we speak to them, unless we pull them aside and say, look, this is the sacrifice that great grandfather did. This is the sacrifice that grandparents did. And this is the sacrifice that I did to give you the life that you now have. Now, for me, I only have one child. She's 25 years old. She just graduated from Long Beach University here in California. And I have always been open with her about the background of my grandparents and my parents and the sacrifices. I worked in the strawberry fields. I worked in the lemon orchards and the avocado orchards. I did that. So I was able to relate with that pretty tightly with my daughter and said, look, baby, this is what great grandfather did, this is what grandpa did, and this is what I did. I don't want you ever to lose track of that. Now, when I wrote the book, I talk about 17 life lessons of my family and the struggles, but that was a love letter that I wanted to write to my daughter and to my grandkids if I never get to meet them, where they see the sacrifices that were done with with her family before her. So that was also the basis of the book as well.
But is your book a memoir?
A book was supposed to be more of a 17 life lessons of my family, my grandparents, my parents, myself, my daughter, because I also talk about my daughter too, and I want that to be passed down. Now, the life lessons in there are implementable in anybody's life, whether it be in any background, because that's the foundation that people need to have, you know. And I in the stories that I talk about in there are stories that I've always wanted to talk out in the open, which I'm now being able, because of the book, I'm able to share them in colleges and universities and motivate, inspire the next generation. And a lot of the kids there don't know about the things that I talk about, like the sacrifices their parents did and their grandparents. They have no idea until I bring it up on stage, and they're just blown away by that.
So you go around the country talking about it and inspiring and encouraging young people. Do you have a website, or do you have resources? Do you have upcoming sessions that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, so for now, I'm actually going in Southern California. That's the universities that I've gone to. But I do have a website. It's my name, GeorgeVGonzalez.com, and it's spelled by Jorge Gonzalez.com. That's two Z's. And my book is in there. My invention is also in there. I talk about my speaking on there as well. I'm being called to motivate and inspire the next generation through the reinventions that I've had to reinvent myself, because I had to reinvent myself about 4 or 5 times already, from a management background in 20 years to then the real estate, to becoming an inventor, to becoming an author, and now a public speaker. So that I've had experience in being able to reinvent myself. Now, the amazing part of that is that I was able to use my previous experience and my previous careers as the foundation, and I was able to bring them together on stage, which is a powerful thing I was able to create. But we all have the ability to do that.
By you sharing your experiences and your examples, how does that help to inspire and empower others to pursue their true purpose in life?
You know, some things are so simple in life, and somebody might have a conversation with you and they might say something that'll plant a seed. It's like, wait a minute, I knew that. But if you don't implement anything, it doesn't matter what you know. It's as good as not knowing, right? Because some things are so simple. I asked some of the students, and on a side note at the universities, because they tell me, George, I don't know what my gift is. I don't know what my talent, and I definitely don't know my life purpose. So then I ask them simple questions. Let me ask you this. What do you like to do? Well, I like to do this. Okay. What things that you do on a daily basis, constant basis, does it give you fulfillment? Well, I get fulfilled when I'm doing this. Okay. Well, let me ask you one last question. If you were to do one thing in your life, it doesn't matter if you get paid or not, what would you want to do in life? Well, I would want to do this. Okay, now listen what you just said on all three of these questions. Do you see anything yet? Because I'm making a connection with all three things that you just said. And then it really gets them to think. So what you're saying, no, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, ask yourself what I just asked you. Put those three together, and what does that look like to you? And they're like, did I just figure it out? It's like, yes, you did, actually. Just by having those three questions, because questions are powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Questions, it makes us think and realize what we're good at, what gives us fulfillment, and what would we really want to do if money was not an option. You marry those three things together, and guess what? That is your gift, your talent, and that is your life purpose.
Excellent. Well said. So where can the listeners get a copy of your book?
People can actually go to answerthecall.me, answerthecall.me, and it'll take you right to my Amazon, and you can actually download it for free on Kindle Unlimited.
Oh,
Or
okay.
you can also go to my website, georgevgonzalez.com, and that's spelled with the J. And the first tab that comes up top is my book. Or you go to my social media and hit my bio, my social media, and that will also take you to my link tree. And you can download my book for free there as well on Amazon. My thing is that I want to spread the message on a wide scope that I am promoting the free copy of my book is what I'm promoting. I'm not promoting the paid version. I'm promoting the free version. That's my gift to the world.
Okay. So are you in the future, are you thinking of writing another book or part 2 to that, or?
Actually, yes, I will be doing a second book in the future, and that one's going to be different. It's going to be more of how to help somebody go from point A to point B to C to the life of their dreams. That will be the next book. And I will talk more in detail on my background as far as my management and how I use my previous management experience to everything that I do as far as any career path and reinvention, and how I was able to marry all of those things together. Because I think that would be powerful. And I think it would be a powerful book because I'm also a real estate agent. And when I came into and I talk about this in my book as well too. And whenever I meet a new agent, I tell them, look, stop saying you're new because you're not new. Let me ask you this. What was your previous background? Well, I was interior design. Okay. I was in landscaping. Okay. I was in accounting. Okay. Okay. So that means you have relatable experience to real estate because interior design is relatable. Landscape design is relatable. My background was kitchen, bathroom remodels, rehabbing, and doing flips with my dad and my uncle since I was 14 years old. That is the foundation of real estate. So that was my relatable experience. So when I say that to them, they're like, oh my God, I've been doing this for 20 years. Yes, you have. It just happens that now you got your license and you're selling real estate, but you have relatable experience. That's your foundation of it. And they're like just blown away by that. Same thing with accounting and numbers. That knowing why to buy a home and why it's so crucial, and those numbers, it lowers your taxable income. Income increases your equity in your home. It's a depreciating asset on paper, but it's appreciated asset physically. Those are all relatable experiences for an accountant. And they're just blown away when I say stuff like that.
So in this book, are you going to include all of this in there or?
Well, I share some of that in this book, but on
Okay.
the next book, it'll be detailed
Okay.
exactly what I just mentioned.
Okay.
I'm gonna bring all my career paths
Mm-hmm.
into one book, starting from management,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to end with speaking. And in between, there's going to be real estate. There's going to be inventions, because I'm also an inventor, and I talk about that in the book. It'll be more detailed.
So it's going to be all about your reinventions, like everything
Yes.
you have. Okay, sounds good.
Yes.
Okay.
And it'll be deep
Okay.
into it, into the subject.
Okay.
Yeah.
So any last words for the listeners on transforming their lives and discovering their full potential?
You know, one last thing I want to say is that reinvention, what that means and when that takes place, it's usually after a major catastrophic event in your life. But what we have to understand is that event in our life, we have to use those lessons and hold on to them real into our chest and use that as a foundation to reinvent ourselves, because there's a reason why we went through that. The lessons learned there is not something that they can teach you in a convention, in college, university, in school. They can't teach you that. But if you survive something like that, the beauty on the other side is life changing. I mean, I'm sure you can feel the passion in my voice and my body language, stuff like that, and how passionate I am. And this happened through all these struggles that I was able to bottle up and use that as a foundation and as a stepping stone for my next path, writing the book, becoming a published author, becoming a bestseller in Amazon, and now being a public speaker on stage and motivate and inspire the next generation, because that is not what I'm being called to do.
Well, George, thank you for being on Beauty of Colors podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been my pleasure, and I hope that your viewers are able to get some very powerful nuggets, be inspired and motivated for them to follow their gifts, their talents, and the life's purpose, and create the life that they've always wanted.